Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to the OEQ Hangout, the Open Ecosystem Hangout. So we are here today to discuss some important topic, which is an introduction to what is called as India Stack. So I will first introduce what is iSPIRT and what is the role it plays in India Stack, and then subsequently also introduce all the panel members. Then we will go into a detailed discussion. So iSPIRT is the software product industry think tank, a a non-profit organization. Roughly, we've been in existence for 3 years, exclusively focused on the product industry, its players, issues, influencing policy, developing public goods in one fashion or the other. Most of our base is volunteers and is from the industry itself, hence nothing is alien to any of the people involved. So the spirit of sharing, co-evolution, and combined destiny makes the organization very vibrant and focused. More of the organization programs and people can be found on the website iSpirit.in, and also anybody could follow Product Nation handle on Twitter to get regular updates. So let me first start introducing the panel. I have Sanjay Jain here with me. Sanjay has been an active member of both India Stack and the Open API. Maybe but on the Open API as well. And he's also part of the Cashless India team at iSPIRT. And probably let me ask Sanjay to introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi. As Jay mentioned, I'm a volunteer with iSPIRT and I'm part of the Open API and the Cashless India teams. I have worked on many large-scale systems, two of which are probably very familiar to the audience here. One of them is Google MapMaker, which is a wiki for maps. We use this to launch maps for India and for 170 developing countries. The other is Aadhaar. I was the chief product manager at the UIDI, where we launched Aadhaar. I was with Aadhaar from before the launch till about 200 odd million Aadhaars issued. Today that number is at 940 million. And it's a pleasure to be a part of iSPIRT and work on these projects. It's very fulfilling. Back to you, Jay.
Hey, Sanjay incidentally holds a master's in computer science from the University of California, Los Angeles, and a BTech in computer science from IIT Bombay. That's phenomenal. Sanjay is now with XStep. Maybe you want to say a line about it?
Sure. XStep is a effort to get basic numeracy and literacy into the hands of children. We have a large number of children who are going through their formative years right now, and we believe it's very important that they're able to deal with numbers and read and write. And so XStep's a not-for-profit where we're trying to make sure that across the country, all the children make it into the mainstream through education.
Okay. Thanks, Sanjay. Next, I have Pramod Verma. Dr. Pramod Verma is the CTO of XStep now, a not-for-profit, which Sanjay described just now, and Chief Architect and Technology Advisor of Aadhaar. Pramod, it's been wonderful talking to you and being with you on the team, and Open API, GSTN, and numerous other things. Probably I should hand over the mic to you to introduce yourself.
No, thanks, Jay. I hope you can see it goes
Yes.
dark here. Yeah. Okay. It's a privilege to be part of iSPIRT. It's a privilege to be a volunteer at iSPIRT. That itself is a privileged position, I think. And we are doing great stuff at iSPIRT. And I'm a computer scientist by background and been an architect of really large systems. Recently at Aadhaar, chief architect along with Sanjay, and I'm still there as part of the system. And I've built many layers on top of that, and some of that is what we will talk today: e-sign, digital locker, and now unified payment, which where Sanjay and I are participating at NPCI. But my full-time role, if I'm not volunteering, then that's at XStep. Okay. That's also another exciting mission. So.
And you are a true PhD holder. So we have two PhD holders from here in the team, and your PhD in computer science from where? I won't
So I
see
did
that.
my PhD. I did my PhD in JNU and MTech, computer science there. And before that, I'm a master's in mathematics. I'm not even an
Oh,
engineer, so it's good fun.
that's a good combination. Then the next on the panel is Dr. Gianfranco Bonini. I hope I got the name right. We call him as Gian, so fondly.
That's fine, Jay. Thanks for the introduction. I'm Gianfranco, and as Pramod said, it's a privilege to be part of iSPIRT. I do what I can in the areas of open APIs and the India stack, which is a very exciting topic, as we will discuss today. In my day job, I work for Cluster. It's an analytics startup, part of the Tally Group. And before that, I spent 15 years at SAP. Back to you, Jay.
Thank you, Gian. Phenomenal background. SAP did a lot of wonderful things, highly scalable India level programs, and now with Tally, it is one of the very successful product companies. So cluster data is the new startup in the Tally group.
Yes. We started relatively recently, and we see a lot of potential to bring value to our customer base by using analytics. And we're just at the beginning of the journey, but it's quite exciting, and I hope you'll hear more about us quite soon.
Cool. Looking for that. And Amit Ranjan from SlideShare, formerly SlideShare, which was acquired by LinkedIn. Now, on the other side of the table, which is on the government side, we're doing wonderful job again, and the national e-governance initiatives. Amit, would you speak a few words about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm a startup entrepreneur at heart, and although I have now crossed over to the government nonprofit side, so part of the founding team at SlideShare, and SlideShare was, 2006. We started in 2006, got acquired in 2012, and I exited SlideShare LinkedIn last year, and post that phase, I have joined the Department of IT. And working on a couple of projects. One is the Open API and the Open Governance kind of initiative at IT. And the second is something which is called the Digital Locker, and we'll be speaking about that today. It's one of the derivatives of the Aadhaar ecosystem. And I've been volunteering at iSPIRT for many years now. And I think it's an absolute privilege to be part of this team. And prior to my startup stint, I came from a background of product marketing and sales, and so that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Right. All of the people on the panel are part of the Open API team. So a sentence or two, Amit, about the Open API policy and where that stands and how that will work.
Yeah. So I think, and I can say this because now I am part of the government, is that it's part of the open governance initiative broadly within the government of India. And there's been, in 2012, the government came out with the open data policy, and that was followed by the open API policy earlier this year, and also a policy on open source. All of these are, various dimensions of open governance. And all credit to the government for thinking about open governance at this level, and kind of pushing through with all these policies. So, and in the years to come, we hope that these policies will kind of blossom and flower, and they'll have the trickle down effect into the ecosystem that they are supposed to do.
Yeah, I look forward to a success with India Stack. Will be an implementation of the Open API policy and mechanism. So let's first start with Pramod. Probably where you could introduce what India Stack really is trying to achieve. What is India Stack?
Okay.
That would be the most important question to start with.
Okay. I'll take a stab at it, and I think as we discuss, we can expand on many things. So, yeah, Aadhaar was the first step, as Amit pointed out. Government is moving towards open APIs and open data. So we have been evangelizing in the system, in the government, as part of the government, and now as part of iSPIRT, for large government projects to be built as a platform, API-based platform, using open source, providing open data. You know, that's sort of the new generation way of building a large system on which many entrepreneurs can build specific applications, innovations on top of that stack, instead of government trying to build the entire application by itself by putting out an RFP and so on, and which are very constrained. So Aadhaar was the first step towards that, which is a minimal identity system with an open API for authenticating the identity. Then we evangelized with National Payment Corporation of India to build a layer for Aadhaar-based payments, which is APB, and which is Aadhaar Payment Bridge, which is used to send money. So you can send money to an Aadhaar number right now, and which is a layer on top of Aadhaar. It's not done by UIDR. Actually, it's done outside as an innovation. Then we delivered eKYC API in second year. I mean, 2010, we had 2010-11, we had eKYC, electronic KYC. KYC is a huge cost today, and we wanted to make sure this completely go paperless. These two came from really Aadhaar. And then in 2014, I was working with the DIT secretary at that time, Ram Sevak Sarma, and we were mulling over how to do digital signature at scale. Because today everything requires a wet signature on file on paper, and every time you have paper, it's costly. So we created another layer called eSign, and eSign is an open API on top of Aadhaar, allowing 940 odd million Aadhaar holders, soon a billion Aadhaar holders, to digitally sign any document. It's an open API. So you could imagine in the future an apartment adda, application offering and rental agreement signing right on your mobile. So you can pick up a rental agreement, template. What template do you want? Like your resume template in Word, and fill it up, sign it, send it to your other party, signs it, makes an electronic payment, and you're done. So all kinds of innovative application can be built using identity, digital signature. Then we went and created, Amit will explain later, there's a framework, an open API framework for digital locker, which allows documents to be stored digitally and shared digitally. So it's sort of way of saying dematting of all electronic documents in the country, not only stock certificates, university certificate, healthcare records, telecom records, whatever you want to do. And that's a very open, very powerful framework which Amit is working deeply with. And that framework, when it comes alive, forward-looking, few more years, we could see many powerful applications built allowing a single-click share of a validatable document right off your cloud, on your digital Dropbox, right, or your digital box. That's digital locker. And on top of that, we are building unified payment interface. Sanjay and I are very integral part of that with National Payment Corporation of India, which allows instant money transfer from any bank to any bank using either peer-to-peer money transfer or merchant-to-person money transfer, all on your mobile. So there are 4 layers that empowers this sort of dream come true is identity layer, paperless layer, which allows KYC and electronic signature, digital locker giving paperless transaction, and payment layer, cashless layer. So presenceless, paperless, cashless services. You can reimagine every service today to offer anytime, anywhere to 1 billion people using presenceless, paperless, and cashless on your mobile. And that's India's stack. And then now we are working on the last layer on that, which allows the these three layers, presence-less, cashless, and paperless, cashless layer, to be used as a mechanism for the most privacy-protected data sharing, which is what we call electronic consent architecture, which puts the person right in the middle of data sharing. So all your financial data, telco data, healthcare data is given to you in your digital locker, digitally signed, secure, and you choose to share with who you want to share for the purposes of credit, for the purposes of insurance, and so on. That's more of a legal and framework rather than an API. So this entire stack is India's stack, and we are the only country, very proud, all of us are very proud to say, we are the only country in the world that can offer. Recently, we spoke this to Bill Gates, and he was saying India is absolutely at the cusp of leapfrogging. 1 week back, we had the presentation. Very excited to share more details today.
Correct. Okay, Sanjay. The question is, now, is this very futuristic? Is this real? Is this, they say that, right? A sufficiently advanced technology is completely invisible. So it is there, but you won't feel it. So is this something which is real and possible and buildable? And I'm sure there are enough brain power in the country, but what is your take on it?
Yeah. So thanks, Jay, for bringing up that point. It's clearly, Aadhaar is out there. We already have 940 million Aadhaars issued, and people are starting to use it. We see the numbers in the form of eKYCs that are being done every day, in the form of authentications that are happening, and that's very real. We see a large number of people using it either for bank account opening, SIM card issuance, and it seems like that's continuing to make progress. On the other side, when we look at the finance layer, UPI, that's very real. We were in a meeting with banks, and every one of them was very excited about it and wanted to come on board and launch very quickly. So that should happen in the near future. We are looking at maybe 2 to 4 months away from that launch. E-sign is again real. It has been notified, and all of the current certificate issuing authorities, the CAs, are providing these services, and there's going to be more in the future who are only providing e-sign services. So we expect that to happen. And these are all very important parts of going cashless and paperless. And we've been in discussions with various regulators on how that can be used to bring down the cost of onboarding. And many people are excited about that very aspect of it, because inclusion is really about providing a service to a customer at a viable price. And if you're able to bring down the transaction cost, what is viable actually changes. So you can actually increase the number of people who are investing in mutual funds by a factor of 10. You can expand the coverage of insurance services, and so on, just because we are able to bring the cost down by making these processes very simple and API driven. And so it's very real today, Ajay. I think some of these are already live. The others will be live in the next 3 to 4 months.
I ask you this question because Google, if I remember correctly, Google Maps was the first one where everybody used the API, and nobody knew where the API was coming from and how it was actually functioning, but everybody used it.
Okay. No, Google Maps was actually a classic example of an API. So, in fact, if you look at the history of the stack, the way we think about it is there was a lot of public goods which are invested in by the government, not India but in the US, which led to the creation of TCP/IP, GPS, and other sort of public goods. And people built on top of that. And we always use Google Maps as an example of something that built on the internet, that built on top of GPS to provide this fantastic service. And they, in turn, paid it forward by providing an API to it, so that other people could build on top of that. And that's actually has allowed people like Uber, Airbnb, etc. to operate. And that's really, truly being part of a stack where you build on top of one functionality layer, you provide more functionality as an API, and that allows other people to bring things which couldn't have been thought of earlier.
All right. Gian, questions about technology and how it has become all real now. and what is this API? How would that benefit the entrepreneurs? We are talking of ultimately the startups and entrepreneurs participating in this. So what does that mean? What does the policy mean? What does the stack mean? Availability of the stack as a service.
Right. So we've been working as iSPIRT with the government for some time, right? As it was discussed, to define this new paradigm of technology based on the open APIs. And one, the big promise is that the moment there is a usable, well-designed, scalable set of APIs, the ecosystem will come into the picture and will really multiply that by an astonishing factor. And I have in a sense, the pleasure and privilege of being somehow straddling, because as part of where I work, we are looking at it from the consumption perspective, and it's very exciting to see that we can really tap into this repository of services from the government, and we can integrate that into products and services for the the consumer or the businesses at a very large scale. And this is what will change the game for anybody who buys even a relatively older product, and then all of a sudden finds that, hey, it's not just about let's say accounting, it's not just about ERP, but I'm really connected to a whole portfolio of services. I can do my business better. I can communicate with my partners better. I can pay my taxes online. I can do eKYC. I can identify my customers. I can a whole spectrum of things that we will soon take for granted. And as you were saying, will probably be taken for granted the same way that we don't think about basic infrastructure services, and we will accept this as the digital infrastructure of the country, and that's very exciting.
All right, Amit, tell a little bit more about the digital locker and how's the real implementation. What's the backside story of all this India stack? I know that people are working very hard to really bring the India stack up, but what does it involve in building this scale system?
Right. So the digital locker is essentially, aimed at the concept of paperless governance, that, as Pramod pointed out. And the idea is that the government, over the lifetime of a citizen, issues various documents and certificates. And at this point in time, most of the transactions with those documents happens in a physical format. So you take paper and you photocopy and you scan it and you sign it and you courier it, and we all know that, right? So how can you kind of replace that with the digital trail? And so essentially, I would say that there are two paths to this problem. So one is the conceptual design and building of the core solution itself. And I think ever since I've joined here, we spent a good amount of time on that, and you can say with confidence that version 1 of the application is up and running and it's ready. On the other hand, I think, and this is probably where the bigger challenge lies, is that you have to bring the entire ecosystem of these government documents and certificates into the platform. And in government terminology, they use the word onboarding. So you essentially have to onboard central government departments, states, agencies, private players, and get their
examples of those documents.
Correct. So, for example, Election Commission has about 85 crore voter IDs. Then there are about 8 crore passports. There are about 22 crore, PAN cards. Then you have Aadhaar is about 94 crores, and so there is a e-Aadhaar, which is of a similar number. And these are the documents which we all know. These are documents that we have submitted in our schools and our jobs. But if you go to the rural areas, if you go to the smaller towns and cities, there the kind of the lives of the people revolves around a lot of other documents as well. So, things like income certificate, caste certificate, other documents as well. So the challenge is, the big challenge is that, how do you kind of get all these to be in a digital format and be available, on the digital locker. So one of the mechanisms is, if you can link.
Sorry, I stopped hearing Amit for some reason. Are others able to hear?
Yes, same here.
So let's go to the next question, maybe while Amit comes back. Pramod, we talked about cashless, paperless, and what's the other one, which is less, which is presence-less, right, for Aadhaar. So why are these important? Why is paperless important? Because we in India are used to paperless, paper being the fundamental part of our everyday working. So what is this which makes this whole new system which India Stack provides, which is paperless, cashless? Why is this important? Hey, you're to unmute, I guess. Sanjay, do you hear Pramod?
I don't hear Pramod right now.
Oh, even I don't. As Pramod, don't hear.
He's mute.
Ah, yeah, no. I see some voice. Pramod? No here.
Okay, so Pramod's asked me to take the question. So, Jay, the reason why these are important actually goes back to the answer that I've given earlier, because these are all elements of cost. If I can provide a service to somebody without him having to come to my office. So take an example of a loan. If I have to go to take a loan to the bank office and the bank official has to make a decision and I have to be present, then that adds costs, both because I might actually be in a remote area and I don't have the ability to go to the office without losing half a day of wages, or in terms of time for everybody concerned. Then there are other costs that come in because of these things. So if we can take that out, if for instance I'm an intraday vegetable vendor, I go take a loan in the morning, I get use that money to buy vegetables, I sell them in the day, and then at the end of the day I repay that loan. I can't do this by going to the bank every day.
Right.
At the same time, the cost of this loan, if I go to the informal system, is very high. Today, an informal worker in this category pays somewhere between 1 to 5% a day in terms of interest rates. And that's extremely high. We want them to come into the formal system because the costs are lower. And yet, if that requires that he has to meet a bank official in the morning to get his loan approved, it's not going to happen at these costs. So we have to take a lot of the physical interactions out of the system. So presence-less allows for that.
All right.
Paperless.
So, what you're saying is that by this system, we are trying to enable serving a large number of people.
Right.
Much more than what we are doing today.
Exactly. So it also allows it to scale. So at a individual level, it's a lot of convenience. At the other end, it's a scale, because what I can do for one person, because I don't have to do this in person physically, I can now expand the number of people I serve, and costs stay the same. That scalability is important. So both of these factors allow more people to come into the formal systems at a lower cost, and the bank to scale its operations. So, which is why it becomes extremely important to put it all together.
All right. Good. Now let's to the other thing. We have the technology now. We know what can be done on implementing the India Stack and making it available. So now the question is, what do we expect the ecosystem to do? So let's ask this to Pramod, maybe, are you back? I don't know whether you can be heard.
No, I don't think we can hear him anymore.
Yeah, there is no hearing. When I don't hear. Maybe Sanjay, you can step
Can
in.
take the track. Okay, so what we expect is at this point, we have created the APIs and we have allowed for people to access them. So what we would like is for entrepreneurs to come together to look at these APIs and see how they can build products and services using these. And maybe they'll work with the large enterprise players to offer these products through them because the scale comes from the existing large enterprise, or they'll build a competing enterprise against that. So we would like to see all of this happen. We would like to see innovations come in on top of the stack. We would like to see these applied to existing use cases, and the more the merrier.
All right. So we have the layers and we want the entrepreneurs to come and build the applications and build a business around it, right?
Exactly.
That's what we are looking at. So if that's the case, are we looking at these to be startups or big companies? What are we?
I think both. Clearly, today, if you take a look at people who need to use eKYC, these are the large regulated players. They're people regulated by TRI, like telecom companies, who would use this for SIM card issuance. Now, they might build it themselves, or they might, as most enterprises do, outsource it to some other startup to build for them. Similarly, in the banking system, it could be a bank that builds the application for its customer or outsources it. And then, of course, there will be the other use cases which we are, not even we haven't even thought about, where it could be a startup that does both the business and builds the application. It's completely all are possible.
All are possible. Okay, Gian, are you there? And I don't see your picture on the. Gian, can we hear the voice? No. Pramod? No, Pramod, no voice yet. Oh, you need to reset your system, it appears. I have very limited choice. Sanjay and I have to talk now until the rest of the panel comes back, because we have a lot of important points to cover. One of the points is like how would the entrepreneurs come to know more things about the stack? Is that reliable for them to build their business? See, Sanjay, the question is like the APIs have to work day in and day out. I can't say, hey, look, you can't do this payment because your API, some government API is down.
Right.
So how do you think that is possible? Is that realistic?
So if you take a look at Aadhaar, the system that we built it to scale as it stands today for 100 million authentication requests a day. We are nowhere near the capacity, and it will scale linearly. I mean, Pramod was the chief architect on that project. He still is. And he built a system which scales linearly for authentication. And so while it is sized at a particular size, okay, great. We have Pramod with me now, and we'll get him on in a couple of minutes.
All right.
But broadly, we built it to scale linearly, and hence we do expect to see that over time, we'll be able to build more applications that will use it and no issues at all.
All right.
Similarly, if you take a look at the payment systems that the NPCI has been building, they have built systems over the last few years, whether it's the Aadhaar-enabled payment system, the payment bridge, or IMPS, all of them have scaled very well. So I'm not that concerned about them scaling at this point. And similarly, whether we look at DigiSign, the eSign, the DigiLocker, I'm sure they've been designed in a way that would scale very well. And so far, we haven't heard issues of downtime as well on any of these applications. So while these are government systems, they've been functioning fairly well, I would say, over the past few years.
So the APIs are designed for scaling. The systems are designed for scaling. Pramod, you want to add a couple of words on how the APIs are implemented? I'm sure
I think we are together now.
All right, cool. That's better.
Yes.
We can see both of you together.
So we are back together.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One is the presenceless part. We should look back to pre-90s, and several of us probably remember this. Going to the bank, particular branch in which we opened the bank account, and we had to be there when that teller is there.
Yeah.
And we even today, if you go to an RTO, you have to go to a specific RTO. You can't go to any RTO.
Yeah.
The same thing with the ration, PDS system, for example, fair price shop. So the most systems are designed to be very human specific location. It's not location agnostic. You can't go anywhere anytime. All this actually creates friction, and the bargaining power remains with the provider, not with the consumer, because I have to go when that person is there and when that person is in good mood. Otherwise you won't get it. So with ATM card, what did banks do is give you an identity that can be authenticated anywhere on the network. Now you can go to Mumbai airport and take money out. I still know it's J. Pulur. So it's pretty straightforward. Now imagine a billion people having a digital identity that is authenticatable. It's like having a billion people with the ATM on the network. So suddenly you can reimagine the way RTO services, education services, government services, food distribution, all done. So that the presence-less, my ability to go anywhere, anytime, and avail the services that I am entitled to is very, very key. And that can only come from digital authentication. Otherwise, it's a physical authentication.
Correct. So the question, Pramod, is why private parties, why startups, entrepreneurs, what's the need for them to be,
Very
good.
good.
In the front end?
I think fantastic question. When we both of us actually spend a lot of time in the Aadhaar project as part of the government procurement, okay, and it's not straightforward at all. So what we realize is that government, with its rigor of paperwork and all the RTI, all the procurement rules, all the CAG auditing them and so on, it becomes very hard for them to be innovative and agile. So they have to think about everything when you write the RFP and put it out. So iSPIRT, as all of us, been advocating with the government to do minimal system, preferably API based, open data based, that allows innovations to happen outside the government. And where does innovation happen? Not in large companies, only by startups. And all the young guys who are doing the startups will innovate like crazy.
Yeah. And the other question is will these startups be able to build scale business? See, scale is one of the very important things. I know we talk about a billion people being available, but are there opportunities that entrepreneurs can really harness and build very maybe multiple applications, whatever, and for regional taste or whatever regional requirements and language requirements and all that stuff? How do you see this?
No, definitely. I think, see, everything that we go around, anything that we see, whether it's movie going, ticket buying, travel on the transport, education related applications, healthcare related applications, payment, finance. Sanjay talked about credit, peer-to-peer credit, and so on. Every one of them is waiting to be disrupted. Some of them are being disrupted, some of them will be disrupted. It's only a question of time, right?
Yeah.
So that you see around is actually an opportunity. And what we are saying is that India Stack allows, finally, for us to create a scalable service delivery model completely digitally with extremely low cost on the mobile, without diluting security, privacy, traceability, non-repudiability, what we believe paper does, right? And that's all doable in digital system today. We are actually prime time. Exciting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's interesting.
In India, we are fortunate.
Yeah, we are
Which we want to do. But
we want to do.
whenever it is the problems of the
Whenever there's the problems of the
you look at it,
you look at it.
available in scale. So
People in scale.
all is
So
available.
all is
So,
available.
Jian,
Jian,
you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, cool. Back. Wonderful to have you back. The question is to you, Jian. This whole API, we understand the government will provide a reliable system. There is a policy which governs how the government will actually provide. But do we have the platforms where the applications could be delivered in the end? Now, do you think they're reasonably mature and available across?
Well, are you talking about from the consumer side or from the provision
From the
side?
consumer side.
Consumer side, yeah. So what we are trying to do now is to enable the ecosystem to play an experiment with these open APIs and find out where the opportunities are, discuss with each other, test things out, and so on and so forth. So we have been we are working as iSPIRT to deliver the information, not just in terms of documenting what the APIs are or the basic initial stuff, but also to foster the discussion within the ecosystem itself. So we are going to come out with the indiastack.org website, and we are going to promote actively the conversation with all the participants, whether it's a young developer who's sensing that there's an opportunity here, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's an investor, whether it's an established player who wants to incorporate certain things within the portfolio that he or she is already publishing. So the idea is to really foster a discussion, foster the experience exchange, and really make sure that that this can happen, because this is a promise that we are giving the government. That the deal is that if the government opens its systems through an open APIs and delegates some of the hard work in development to the community, then the community will step up, and we need to enable that. And so what we're going to do in the next months is that there will be quite a flow of information coming from iSPIRT, but also supported by other partners that will evangelize all these, not just the India stack, but overall the open API part. And there will be sandboxes, there will be opportunities for people to just, at a very, with a very low cost of entry, to just get, and be able to understand and test first rate, in first person, how these APIs are actually going to change the businesses.
All right, thank you. So these applications could be delivered to the end consumers. Do we have enough number of machines or phones or something? Would that be realistic? Are there enough smartphones? Or they are spreading?
Well, the interesting thing is that there's this confluence, right, of different trends, and they all seem to come to a perfect storm. One is, of course, the adoption of smart devices is growing at an amazing rate, not just in this country, but of course in this country in particular. And this means that in principle anybody with $50 or $40 or less can get a very, very powerful computing device and can access not just the one platform, but basically not just Facebook or so, but can really integrate or be integrated into this digital infrastructure, this amazing digital infrastructure that is emerging. And it will be, of course, connectivity and so on might be still issue at this point, but this will definitely happen at an amazing speed, and there is a confluence of interests and confluence of passions coming from all these different sectors, right? So from the consumer side, from the buyer side, there's a much better access to financial resources and so on to be able to tap into this. And of course, the development community in the ecosystem. There's this amazing growth in startups and capital and all that, which is on the supply side, and the government is promoting the infrastructure. I think when all these three factors come together, and this is the country where possibly these three factors are each at the highest. This is a really amazing opportunity.
All right. So I have some audience questions. Let me take the first one. I'll come back to you, Gian. I have a very important. You need to tell the audience about how Tally is planning to use the India stack. I'll come back to that. But the first question is, if somebody were to build a credit scoring system, is that realistic now to build, or should we wait for all the unbanked people in the country to bank themselves and become available to access the system? Sanjay, you can take this question.
Sure. So Jay, the point is this, that whenever you're building a system like a startup, you first find the place where you can start to deliver value without having large requirements. I mean, if you take a look at this segment, microfinance started in this way. And if you think about it, microfinance has the lowest default rates. They were 99.6% plus repayment rate. And yet, those folks pay the highest interest rates in the formal system. And in the informal systems, of course, even worse than that. So the point is that what they did was found a segment where they're able to take the risk, they're able to price that risk and their operational costs into the interest rate, and are able to provide a service which has seen a huge offtake. And we have to do the same thing. Once you start providing that credit, that person becomes digital, they start creating a digital exhaust, and then you can ride on it. So you actually can start a virtuous cycle initially by choosing the right target market and being able to kickstart it from there. So you don't really have to wait for everybody to come into the formal system. And as an entrepreneur, you can start in areas around you, or maybe expand your geographies a little bit, and very quickly get to scale.
All right. So what you're saying is that entrepreneurs should look at jumping in straight away, build their systems. So question now is,
eyes open, yes.
and expand, and expand the market. Obviously,
Exactly.
even somebody who wants to build for the globe doesn't build for the globe from day one, right? They will take the 9 pins approach, get the mark of the first pin, first market, and then subsequently the second market, and so on and so forth. So maybe in terms of coverage, there might be an expansion. So the question now is, if startups have to experience the India stack, start a use, how would they go about doing it? So Pramod, you may want to answer this question. This is from audience again.
Okay, so I'll answer partly, and I would want John to also jump in here because he's leading the developer ecosystem activity at iSPIRT around India Stack. So he can talk a little bit of that. So I think the good thing is that some of the core APIs have been in the works, and there are in Aadhaar Hackathon, for example, I attracted a few thousand developers, and there are many applications being developed. So the developed technology, reuse, and knowledge cycles have kicked in already, except maybe for UPI, which is new. But the good thing is that 20 banks are going to be ready in the next couple of months. So they're going to be all coming out together. So the technology is available, documentation available, sample code is available. Many developers are actually coding, and many programming language. But what we are trying to do at iSPIRT is to bring this information together onto a consumable platform where developers can participate, interact with experts, interact with several of us who are on and off coming online to answer these questions. And I would want John to talk a little bit about our India Stack developer community outreach programs we are planning in the next few weeks. So that can answer some of the knowledge dissemination question, I think. John?
Right. So thanks, Pramod. So as you were saying, we are planning quite a few efforts in this area to disseminate information. So one is, as I mentioned before, an entry page, indiastack.org, which will go live hopefully very soon. And we are going to host or provide a full site with blogging capabilities, where we will disseminate information, where we can publish the APIs, where we can host hackathons, where we can have ask me anything sessions and so on and so forth, but especially for the community to interact with each other. And I think this will be very important, because it's not just a two-party thing. It's not just that on one side you have the government, and the government opens APIs, and on the other side you have the consumer or whoever develops the application on top. But many of these platforms have actually different roles, and the community will provide different roles there as well, right? So for example, in a locker, there can be a provider that as long as they implement the right APIs, right, you can host your documents in different places, and therefore it's not just a matter of having one centralized repository and everybody tries to consume that. This is, I think, is very important. That we don't have. This also goes into the direction of addressing some of the concerns about, oh, where is my data, and so on and so forth. Right. The idea is that in principle you can host your data in different places as long as the APIs are satisfied, and then you publish that, you open that based on this consent architecture. And so it could be that you have one player in the ecosystem who's trying its hand and being one of these implementers of Locker, and there is another player who's more in the consuming side and wants to see, okay, assuming that there's this locker, how do I access this information, and so on and so forth, right? So we expect that these interactions will happen, but definitely we also need to ensure that there is enough potential, enough offering in terms of, for example, a sandbox or some kind of testing, playground and so on for people to just come and test things out. And we know that the government has requested also guidelines on how do we do that, how do I create a sandbox for open APIs, what are the constraints and so on and so forth, and we have provided some guidelines there, and the hope is that there will be some such systems provided, for example, for these open API-based systems like GST and so on and so forth. But in many cases, it might be also just the ecosystem coming up and playing different roles in creating this infrastructure in different ways.
So, Gian, the question is, if I were to use Tally software, I'm coming to Tally again, okay? So, and I enter my transaction, is my tax deducted automatically or something through the API?
Yeah, so actually we see this as a huge opportunity here, and especially when it comes to GST and so on, that you offer this compliance out of the box, and this is a great thing, because obviously there's again a confluence of interests on the state and the government side, of course, having this whole interaction between taxpayer and government in a digital, non-repudiable, very transparent form is an amazing thing. It's an amazing opportunity. But also on the perspective of making life of the taxpayer simpler, this is a great thing. So definitely, we see that as a great opportunity. And similarly, the other APIs that are going to, as long as they get traction. Right, as soon as they get traction, there will be immediately adoption, and I'm sure we are not, of course, the only ones. But at the moment that the unified payment interface, for example, becomes a standard, and people expect that integration, then obviously, and not just us, but everybody will jump on that. So I'm sure the established players, and I know that SAP and IBM and Oracle, they're all doing the same thing, right? So that's that's definitely out there. But what I think was the sense of the question is for let's say a newcomer, somebody who just has a great idea for a startup. How do they come on board? And we'll make sure that the best that can be done will be done, so that they can also come on board.
We look forward to your and all the experts here on the panel to be acting as the bridge between the government and the entrepreneurs. And we want Tally to really provide a leadership role in terms of going with the API and the India stack, and lots of the examples would follow. So that's what I would think is possible. So in terms of hackathons and all that, if somebody were to get to know, what's the mechanism you would suggest? Is it iSPIRT site?
So we have the opportunity and the privilege to partner with good platforms, and this will be announced soon. So, but the idea is that yes, we will have hackathons and to promote the knowledge and understanding and usage and adoption of these APIs. So you can stay tuned, and we'll soon have some interesting announcements in this area.
All right. So this is a wonderful way in which private and public, the government is coming together to make this happen, and we have a bridge player like iSPIRT coming in and acting, providing the necessary connection between the two.
Yes, sure.
Okay. In final comments, Pramod, Sanjay as well.
No, I think it's great to have this conversation. We are very excited as part of the iSPIRT team, helping with many programs in the government, even in the past, even continuing now. Like you said, India Stack is only foundational. There are other programs like GSTN. When eventually Parliament decides to pass the bill, we will have the API layer. It's all programmable platforms, which is very powerful. The government has not done this before. So we are really helping them make that happen. We have a few other exciting projects that iSPIRT is working on, like identity for vehicles, for example. And that's coming up. So I think we look forward to sharing several of these exciting programs and APIs as part of the India Stack and iSPIRT hangouts like this. As I think we will do a lot more, and we will continue to announce through our website. One thing we can promise is that everything iSPIRT is doing is for the startups, and everything we are doing is for API based, and really trying to transform how do we build large-scale systems in the country, minimal systems by the government, tons of innovation outside the government, and many of these experiments eventually, scaling up to truly change the face. And it's very, very exciting months and years coming by. I think we'll continue to share many of this. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, certainly very excited by what is happening out there, by the response you're getting from various people within the government, within the industry, and how they want to take it forward, how they want to build pilots, fantastic ideas and discussions happening. So certainly look forward to more conversations, to even more of these, and hopefully, this is the way we transform the country.
All right, Gian, we look forward to your developer programs. I guess there are more people listening in who would probably want to take advantage of the India Stack. I'm very sure this is a sizable opportunity, and the government, luckily is taking advantage of the technology which has become available, and with the Jandhan-Aadhaar-Mobile program, we are looking at Aadhaar, we are looking at mobile as the computing platform of choice for the country. So it should all translate into a large-scale opportunity, which makes it viable for not only entrepreneurs but also those who fund the companies and those who are part of the ecosystem in building the software product industry. So that's where the iSPIRT interest lies. That we help build the ecosystem necessary for startups. I'm sure Gian you have final comments to?
Well, I use this last few seconds to invite everybody who has interest in this topic to join us in the conversation. We will make public various channels to exchange experiences, to exchange comments, to provide comments on the APIs, to try things out. And I think the fun is only beginning.
Where would they go? India, iSPIRT.in?
Indiastack.org would be the website of choice. And from there will be various opportunities.
If anybody is lost, they can come to the iSPIRT.in and then they could go to the
yeah, there will be definitely something from there, but we are trying to make the indiastack.org label as popular as possible.
Thank you, all of you. I wish Amit had joined as well. He got disconnected for some reason. Despite all the technical issues, we're looking for a lot of innovation to happen in the country and more startups to come. And I guess any questions would be directed to this panel and members and the others at the iSPIRT. We would be happy to work on bridging that. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.